This is episode 2 of the Spin-Off podcast. I have my guest today is Jasper Wong, an amazing musician, producer, artist, multi-instrumentalist. He's a very talented piano player, pianist, and also a very talented guitarist. Me and Jasper met probably 3-4 years ago now.
Yeah, just after COVID, actually.
Just after COVID, yeah. So we kind of connected through Instagram, and that's how we originally started collaborating together. And so we've just come out of a 3-hour sort of like session where we have recorded a song, or what is the makings of a song, from like scratch with no sort of like prep time or any sort of ideas going into it. First of all, like, is there anything that you want to say about like sort of the music that you generally make, or we can just sort of jump into like a debrief of the session?
Yeah, I mean, I can give a quick introduction to the music that I usually make, which is, I guess I'd say alternative rock with a little bit of cinematic influences, which I suppose comes from a little bit of my background when I was doing some like film composition stuff. You haven't heard me on any films, don't worry. But I was really interested in composing for a bit, so that kind of sneaks into my music. And I also produce dusty sounding 90s hip hop beats under the moniker J Fortuna.
Yes, and I think that is where a lot of our sort of
common ground
exists. Although especially like with the rock influences as well that you have. So how did you find today's like 3-hour-long session in terms of taking like the backseat and like the producer backseat at least? And I was producing predominantly for you in this instance. What did you think of sort of like the format of just creating off the bat, like on a whim, rather than having some sort of like idea that backed up you going into a studio session?
Oh, I loved it. It's fun, man. The thing I really enjoyed about that was, funnily enough, the time pressure, the time constraints. That we have 3 hours, and whatever we manage to complete by then is the end product. And to me, there's like a bit of liberation in that, because I'm coming from a place where I have infinite time and infinite. Well, because I've got like a home studio, right? And I produce myself, so I've got an enormous amount of time to tweak endlessly. If I wanted to work on a song for 2 years, I can, and I have done.
I think we all have.
So yeah. So the 3-hour constraint is a lot of fun, not only as a creative exercise, but also just it's kind of like forcing you to get on the same wavelength as the other person, or forcing me to get on the same wavelength as you.
Probably also vice versa, because I think I didn't want to have too much creative control over what you were doing. I kind of wanted to just allow you to express yourself in that sort of format any way you could, from like, I don't know, chord progressions to sort of like this kind of sounds that you wanted to get out of your guitar. Because I think a lot of the times when, for example, I'm producing for myself, I'll have a certain sort of like chord progression in mind, and everything kind of has to fit around that. And then there'll be some level of like very formulaic sort of style music production where you're like, oh, this is what I usually do, so I'll just continue doing this. But given the fact that you're also a producer as well, I think I really wanted your input in just how you would kind of approach things differently to the way I would. And I kind of just wanted to allow you to just venture out there and see what would happen if you just committed to a singular idea. Because I mean, we started off on the microboot. So originally we had just a very, very simple melody playing like almost EDM style melody.
Yeah, it was like this weird like kind of analog lead sound, and it sounded somewhat 90s ish. Kind of obnoxious, to be honest, especially looped. But what I tend to do is just kind of free associate from that and pick up various different instruments and put kind of spin different variations out of that, and then weave in different kind of chord progressions underneath, and that tends to get me started a lot of the time, even when I'm working on my own stuff. How was out of curiosity, actually, how was my creative process different from yours?
That's a good question. I think in terms of how you kind of went about, okay, so originally you recorded like a taking out the lead synth part. You started with some guitar.
Yeah.
That's quite common to like how I would usually start, because guitar is like my primary instrument, so that is sort of where I find my home base, at least when I'm working with that sort of like, I mean, R&B style rock music, maybe something along in that genre. And then obviously you moved on to immediately kind of onto like lead guitar straight off the back of that.
Yeah.
Now that's something I don't usually approach until probably the end of my recording process.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I don't. Yeah, if I'm ever throwing like some sort of lead on top, for some reason I always just consider that like a top line, and I would always do that towards the end, because then in my head I can use that lead to follow other elements within the song. So, for example, the bass or the vocal. So if I have a particular vocal trill that I've like laid down, I can use like a guitar lead to kind of either counteract that or react to that. So it's kind of like call and response kind of thing. But that also works in the flip way, because we started off with the lead guitar and then we laid down vocals much later, pretty much at the end of the session.
But the vocals, I don't know if you, I don't know how obvious it is on the track, and I'm not sure if it's going to be released. But what I found interesting was that the vocals were following the lead sound, that or at least elements of the lead guitar that I put in very early on in the session. And there was, in my head at least, the melody of the vocal, or the vocal melodies kind of followed the same lineage as the guitar lead. So interesting that we tend to do things, we end up at the same place, but we approach it from
in a different order.
Different orders.
Yeah, but I think the essence is that you've got a melody and you're using an additional instrument, or for example a vocal, to follow that melody. And I think, to be honest, like you said, it's like basically the same end result, but you started on like a guitar rather than the vocal.
Yeah.
And that also gives you room to, because you can do a lot more on guitar than you can with your vocals in general, because you can kind of,
especially me, I'm a much better guitar player than I am a singer, you know.
But that also gives you the flexibility to say like, okay, I want to play this on guitar, and then I can match that with my vocal.
Yeah.
Or you can try to match that with your vocal. But I think if you approach it from the aspect of, okay, if you're saying you're not as good with your vocals as you are with guitar, you've already got a constraint that stops your creative expression because of that potential limit. Which I think having the guitar first in your instance will open that up, because I don't know, you're going to be able to like play quicker, or do like different sorts of progressions with your guitar than you would have been able to do with your voice. It's much easier to like follow something with the instrument you're less confident on than it is to create a new idea from it.
I've literally never thought of it that way, actually, because I don't consciously start with an electric guitar.
Yeah.
Well, I don't consciously start with like, okay, well, I'm gonna go because I'm more confident in the guitar than my vocals. I'm going to explore certain melodies or certain parts of the song on my guitar. I don't think about it that way. I just kind of get into a flow. I get into a flow, and then for me, in my mind at least, it's a lot of the time vocals are music plus lyrics. So it's like melody plus lyrics. So I can't fully disassociate the sound of, or the melodies from the lyrics that I may be working on or have already worked on. you know. Whereas if I'm just going to be adding like another layer on my guitar, adding another layer on keys or bass or whatever, that doesn't exist because I never sing guitar lines, you know,
Yeah.
or sing bass lines. Maybe I should.
I mean, recently that's been sort of a like creative technique I've been exploring because I've seen
Oh, yeah.
a lot of other producers do a similar sort of thing. Because, for example, like Timbaland, I don't know if he plays like any other instruments,
Yeah.
but a lot of what he does, he vocalizes sort of the elements of the song that he's trying to create. So he'll vocalize a bass line, or he'll vocalize like the drum beat,
Yeah.
and that's such a more. I think, especially since we spend most of our time like in the box, like on the laptop and the DAW, it becomes less tactile. And I know that's something that you're actually really good at because your drum beats are recorded and you kind of like tap them in.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Right, and then
Yeah.
a lot of your music is very much guitar based, keys focused.
Sure.
So it is there's very much like a tactile element to you playing what you're creating. But for like myself, I'm not as confident on say like the keys. I'm not exceptionally like well established as a finger drummer. I'd love to. I'm trying to learn those skills, but until I get to that point, like getting that sort of tactile sensation is quite difficult. So like trying to get something that's in your brain onto the DAW is there's almost like a barrier there. But then sort of like mouthing it out, like if I have a bass line in my head, I go do 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 do, and then I can kind of
interesting.
figure out, oh, this should sound like that, and
Yeah,
then do 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 do. Whereas I know we was talking about this before. You said it's like almost intuition for you because you've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
Especially with like playing guitar and playing bass, I can see that you're not actively thinking about sort of what you're going to play next. It's kind of where it needs to go.
That's exactly it. That I see the destination and it's fairly clear where I want to go or how I go about getting there. You know. Just on a side note, Michael Jackson, he was like super famous for coming into the studio with entire songs written in his head, and he would sing out every part. Like, he did that for Billie Jean. But he was just there beatboxing, and then you know,
Really?
he did the whole thing. Like,
So he came up with like the bass line, the ad-libs, all of that.
everything.
Okay.
And he was like, absolutely doing all the multi layers, and he just like punching it in one, bam, 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 bam. Like, hey, Quincy, you know. I was like, oh god,
that was a good MJ impression.
But yeah, no, it's like he would just do like line by line and just put together like an entire like choir of his voice, all different like voice parts, like vocal parts, and yeah, I almost do something similar when I'm working on my own music, not with the voice, but with the multiple instruments that I work with.
So when you usually record, do you have like an idea in mind? Do you ever have sessions like this where you're kind of just sitting down to record something that you've never sort of thought of before? Or is there always like a predetermined either idea or motif or a destination in your head when you approach that?
See, recently, a lot of the time I just jump on I jump in front of my computer with no goal in mind, no destination in mind. I don't have anything particularly that I want to express, and I just noodle around for a while, and then if something works, then it works. I'll often try to force the issue if I'm not feeling inspired, because you know, like a lot of people say like, oh yeah, no, it's really hard to wait, or I have to wait until inspiration strikes. You know, I don't necessarily abide by that, and I think it's a very difficult way to be a creative if you rely on some kind of unspoken muse to walk through the door. Like for me, it's a lot of it is through repetition and just sitting down in front of you know, the software, DAW software, sitting down with a guitar, just noodling around, keep playing, reacting in some way to like some inspiration that you've had. So if I've seen I don't know, like if I've seen like a documentary or a film or something like that, or if I've just if I've come back from like Spain or something like that, I will have. I'll react to that and use that as inspiration. But even on days where I just don't particularly feel inspired, I'll try to at least pick up a guitar, try to put a groove together or something like that, just so that I can keep it in, just so I can keep it going, you know. So I just feel like I'm constantly trying at least to create.
100%. I think that's something that's really important to do as a creative, is because that kind of comes down to like honing your craft, right? I know when I've taken like long breaks of not playing guitar, not only am I rusty in terms of like my fingers and like my ability, like my actual creativity behind it isn't necessarily there, and I don't really have those sort of. I mean, like you're saying, a lot of the time it is just sitting down noodling, right? And then happen chance you'll come upon something that you really like fuck with. It's something you really vibe with.
Sure.
I think that happens less when you don't put the time and effort in to just sit there and noodle around, even on those days where you don't find anything. It's like that kind of builds up to this point where you'll be running through some sort of like chord progression or scale, and you'll find a melody that you like, or you find a progression that you like.
Yeah.
And then that will stem off into, oh, I've got these lyrics that were working in my head for a while, but they never matched anything that I wrote before. And then you'll find sort of like your vocal melody there as well. And I think that's, if you don't do that, there's an element of you're kind of just you're never going to stumble on those cool little moments, because it will always be slightly behind your skill set, because you just haven't sat down and I mean, there's that thing about like you got to allow yourself to be bored, right? If you don't allow boredom, then all you're doing is preoccupying your mind, and it's never going to have those little magic moments where it just comes out with something. Like, because I remember when I was a kid, like during summer holidays, you'd spend a predominant portion of that pretty bored because there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
You're not around your friends, and like in those moments you find ways to entertain yourself, and it's kind of and there's like a creative element to that. And I think it's the same with music. Like, you show up every day, you do the boring stuff, and then eventually you get gifted with this little, it might be from the muse, or it might be from yourself, or wherever you believe like creative energy comes from, or wherever that is. You kind of get gifted that little special something. It's like, oh no, I like this.
Well, I mean, it's to me, it's the other creative things that you do as well. You know, I've noticed that when I'm not writing poetry, I'm not the best poet. I'm not a terrible one either. But when I'm not writing poetry, when I'm not actively putting words to page, when I'm not going out to film, or when I'm not going out to take photographs, when I'm not reading, or when I'm not challenging myself by watching films that are more like visually striking or more experimental, I become much less inspired musically, you know, because it all seems to feed together. And it's hard sometimes because a lot of the time you don't want to go out to you know, if you just finished like a 9-hour workday, you don't want to go out and take photos. You don't want to go out. You don't necessarily want to watch, you know, a 4-hour long slow Taiwanese film. Like, that's not necessarily what you want to do.
Very specific reference.
Yeah, very specific.
We'll have to dig into that. Like,
there's some great films I can recommend. Are exceptionally slow, exceptionally beautiful, but very, very slow.
I would love a list of slow Taiwanese films.
I'll give you some.
4 hour long and above only, but yeah.
But I mean, that's you know, just to labor the metaphor a little bit more. You know, if you are a photographer, you need to go out. Say you're a street photographer, you need to go out to walk around to various different places to be able to take any photos. If you don't do that, say if you're a street photographer and you stay in your room all day, I'm sure you'll take some fascinating photos of your room, but after a while, you know, you need to get out there.
100%. There's an element of I think Mac Miller said it at one point. It was like Of course, I'm quoting Mac, but like,
We love Mac. We both love Mac.
we love Mac. But there's you spend so long inside creating. You need to remember what you're creating for.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I completely butchered his like thing, but like the creative expression comes from like taking in all of these like sources of lived experiences and then feeding that into the music that you make. And if you don't have any lived experiences, then what are you feeding into your music? And I think without that, there's probably an element of you're just either writing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So you're never creatively like pushing your boundaries. And then also, I don't think you'll connect with your own music as much because it's no longer. I think the music that people connect with are things that are. They might not be outright relatable, but on some level, like emotionally, they're relatable, or like they exhibit like they create a reaction from you that is relatable because it's a shared common like human experience. And to have those common human experiences, you need to go outside and experience what it is to be human.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, the days where, the weeks or months where I've locked myself in like my room and just tried to make music, it starts off good.
Yeah.
Towards the end of it, you end up pretty depressed because you're no longer doing the things that you need to do to kind of take care of like your like creative self, which kind of feeds into like your spiritual self, your mental health, your physical health, all of that, right? And, like all of that kind of like ties together to be able to allow you to create. So like kind of off the back of that, where do you feel like you find inspiration? What sort of like art mediums do you go to? Because I know you're saying you don't wait for inspiration, but there are things you do want inspiration for the things that you write or make. Hard question.
Yeah. Difficult question. Because there isn't one fixed place.
No.
I wish there was. I'll just go there. You know. But a lot of it, I've been thinking about this a lot recently because I've been struggling a little bit to be inspired, to create and to write music or to make any art on the wavelength or of the quality that I think I would like to be making, if that makes sense. I've been I think it boils down to, and I'm not avoiding the question, but I think it boils down to, at least when it comes to my music, of it needing to be intensely personal. That music for me is catharsis. It is therapeutic in a certain sense, which means that for me to be inspired, I usually need to be willing to be open and very open with the emotions and the feelings and also the things that are just going on in my life that I may be struggling with or I might be, really happy with. The problem that I've been facing is that I'm not always willing to do that. That sometimes I just hold back a bit, that I'll hold back knowing that at some stage this music will be released, So
It's a scary thought, that one. Yeah, it's always a scary bit. Yeah,
that at some stage the music needs to be or will be released, and therefore when you get to that point, A, is it still relevant what you're talking about? But B, are you going to be willing to expose your most personal thoughts and inner thoughts to the world? And it takes a certain element of like courage and also curiosity in order to do that. And to answer your question in terms of in terms of inspiration, I'd say that a lot of it is based around my desire to understand the world around me and also myself.
Yeah.
And I'll take a lot of inspiration from that. But also just visually beautiful things, and I get inspired a lot when I'm reading, which can get irritating because I just end up reading sentences over and over again because my mind's just spun off. It's the association thing.
Yeah.
I do it when I, like on the track today, but that's also how I am when I'm reading. So
Nice. So you feel like books are, again, like the inspiration thing is a very squirrely subject, because to be inspired from something doesn't necessarily mean it comes from the same source every time, right?
Yeah.
But for example, books, I also find for myself, are a big source of inspiration. And it might not necessarily be the inspiration to create something specific, but it might be the inspiration to create. Right? So I know I've read books and it has inspired me to be more creative, and it has inspired me to put more effort in, or actively try. I was like, oh yeah, I've been a bit lazy lately. Let me
Yeah.
like tomorrow I'm gonna go and sit at my desk. I'm gonna practice, or I'm gonna write something, or do whatnot. Right? Do you find like other sort of like artistic mediums give you inspiration, maybe to create, or actually it actually inspires you? It inspires your creation. Do you find like movies or art, or like you said, books? Do you think that has played like a pivotal role in the sort of music you create and write, or is it specifically introspective in the way that you might use those things as triggers, but like everything you think, like everything that might come from within?
I'd say a lot more of the majority of time, a lot of it mostly comes from within. They are mostly triggers, but not conscious triggers. I'm not gonna say like, oh, I wanna write a song with humor, so let me go watch some comedy.
Yeah.
Or like like I want to write extremely wordy, so let me go and read a dictionary or something like that, or like read a notoriously wordy writer.
That's what Eminem did.
Yeah. And he's there like rhyming orange with door hinge and
Oh, is that what it was?
4 inch.
Yeah. Still trying to work that one out.
I Yeah, no, I'd say they're more triggers. But I have done I have specifically looked at like certain movie scenes. Like there's a there's a Taiwanese film called Vive l'Amour.
Yeah. Is that
From
French?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not in French. It's got something like 48 lines of dialogue throughout the entire film.
Wow.
Like there's like the director. I can't. I don't remember how to pronounce his name, but the director does a lot of instead of traditional story based and character based narratives, he does a lot with visuals. And because it's so sparse in terms of dialogue, I looked at that as a good chance for me to see what I would do. So I started scoring it.
Awesome.
I might also add at this point that Vive l'Amour doesn't have much music in it.
So that kind of gives you...
It gives you a lot of space to interpret it your own way. And it's all about like urban isolation.
Okay.
In mid-90s Taipei. So it's like you just get a lot of lush shots of Taiwan and Taipei at the time. And yeah, just it really, any of the music that I kind of worked on through that, the prevailing emotions that I get out of that are the prevailing emotions in the scenes and in the film.
Nice. So when you go about scoring it, did you?
Yeah. I didn't finish the score, by the way.
that's fine. That's a very regular habit of mine, not like completing
Oh
the
god, the
things.
two of us, man.
But it's fine. So in terms of like how you scored it, because I watched this Miles Davis documentary, and I can't remember what movie it was that he scored, but he actually watched it, and then while he was watching it, he took out his trumpet and then played along to like however he was feeling to the movie that he was watching. Did you take a similar sort of process of scoring this, or is it something that you've seen multiple times before and you kind of just took that away, went into like your DAW and then tried to like create something based upon your memory of it, or was it something you was actively like watching and then scoring at the same time?
I was actively watching and scoring it. I'd only seen the film once before,
Okay.
and I don't necessarily want to work on scoring a film that I've seen multiple times, you know, because A, it's kind of boring, and B, it's like when you do 90 takes of the same vocal or the same or the same like guitar line, you just recording or bouncing like 90 different mixes, right? After a while you fail to you just stop being objective about, you can't hear it anymore properly. And that's the way that I feel like it would be if you have to watch a scene over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, or watch a film like over and over again, 10 times, 20 times, and then finally on time number 21 you're like, okay, now I need to score this. I wouldn't even want to at that stage, you know?
I get it, to be honest, because like speaking of bouncing the mix 80 times, like I feel like after you've got to the 80th mix, you go back and listen to the first one, that was better than the last 79. So I get it. I completely get it, because there is a element of you disassociate from the feeling, and then you also have like, you get sick of it. Like you genuinely like, if I listen to the same song over and over again, no matter how much I like the song, eventually you will not like it anymore. At least for like a period of time. You need like a refractionary period where you just don't listen to it or watch something, and you're like, oh, maybe I can come back to it later. But like, yeah, no, I get it, and it's very Miles Davis of you to sit there and score something while you're watching it.
Yeah, it's what I ended up doing a lot of the time was I'd be there with a soft synth, and I'd be there just kind of like slowly tweaking parameters like on Omnisphere. Start out with like a pad kind of thing. It's easier, to be honest, for a film like Vive l'Amour, because because it's so wide open and there are so many really long shots, like really long shots with no cuts. And Xiao is a director that really loves to just lingers on. Like if this was if this was like a like directed by Xiao, right, he would be just like lingering on that
Slow
GoPro,
zoom.
just and then slowly move out, and the entire scene. Okay, no spoilers, but like Vive l'Amour just ends with, I think, 6 minutes of a close up of the main one of the main characters just like crying.
Well,
And it doesn't cut. He does not cut, and it's brilliant though, because the entire film is. Sorry, this is supposed to be a music podcast.
no, it's fine.
The entire film is you know, just an exploration. It's an exploration of loneliness in the city with these characters who live very solitary lives yet interact with each other in a you know, they interact with each other in a way that is ultimately like emotionally unsatisfying for everyone involved. And then at the end, when it's almost uncomfortable for the viewer to suddenly see just this big explosion of emotion, and it just does not cut. Right? It just doesn't cut, and it's like that's the kind of push and pull that I feel like a lot of artists strive for.
Yeah.
whether unconsciously or whether unconsciously or consciously, that like in the not the Black and the Berry, the in Into Paper Butterfly, right?
Yep.
I would not be as powerful as it is if it was placed anywhere else in the album.
You think the actual running order makes a
Absolutely,
big difference?
absolutely.
That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately as well, because I think the art of collating an album or curating an album, I should say, is quickly diminishing in this world. The single has much more feasibility for an artist and probably for a label as well, I imagine, because you can gauge whether or not an artist has sort of the gumption to do what it takes. But an album is a very big commitment, and sequencing an album and curating like a number of tracks that you're going to put on an album, it's kind of like a lost art, because I know most artists will go through and record 30, 40 songs for a 10-song album.
Yeah.
And there'll be a serious process of cutting all those songs down to 10 that you think comfortably work together in a very specific order that tell a story or tell a motif that you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you say that, because I think Kendrick is probably one of the last few artists. Not the last few is probably like pushing it, because there's plenty of artists, but I think Kendrick is a very good example of someone who's like in the sort of like mainstream,
very prominent,
culture,
very prominently, a very prominent example of someone who still sequences his tracks.
Yeah, he's trying to create like collective art.
Fun. Yeah.
Like trying to collect like a series of like bits of art that he's made, and then make sure that they fit together, and then they tell the story that he wants to tell. I think, most people would say To Pimp a Butterfly is one of the greatest albums of all time, and that's probably one of the reasons for it.
I'd say so. I mean, it's. I don't want to get too deep on To Pimp a Butterfly, because people, a lot more accomplished than me have gone in deep on it. But for me personally, it's pretty much a journey from like into self-acceptance, and that's why to me I hit so hard, because you would have had to, as the listener, you would have had to go through which is harrowing, that song, I might add, and you would have had to go through various different stages within Kendrick's journey to finally say I love myself, right? And I did say that this was going to be a pretentious podcast.
Be as pretentious as you want. We're all artists at the end of the day, so we're about as pretentious as it gets.
I've forgotten the question, actually. We're just having a conversation.
We're just having a conversation. It's fine. To be honest, like getting like kind of back on track. I mean, we were on track with the sort of like music thing, but I know you've had. I know you're working on an album right now. Not that we're gonna say too much about it, because that's still a work in progress. Yeah. But do you find that you struggle to have sort of that sort of cutthroat attitude that you need to create an album? Because I imagine it will be the same case for you, where you've recorded many more songs than will actually probably make it onto the album. I mean, Jasper like gave me like a sneak peek of some music that he made a little while ago, which I think was great. How long ago was it? Almost like between 5 and 10 years, right? You made that.
Oh, which ones?
Letters from Beijing.
Oh, Letters from Beijing is a whole other thing. For context, that's the double album. The double album that I worked on from the years 2015 to 2017.
Cool. So it's been 10 years.
It's been like 10 years. Yeah.
So you've been working on albums for like a while.
Yeah.
So in terms of like your process and how that's changed, do you still feel like you need to be as like cutthroat, or are you creating songs with the intention of them being on the album now?
I think I operate at my best when the songs I'm writing are part of a deeper narrative, like a longer narrative, which, like, oddly enough, the album that I'm working on right now is called A Fractured Narrative, and this is the first. Thank you. This is the first album that I've worked on where the songs aren't part of a longer narrative. Hence, in part, the name of Fractured Narrative. Because if we go back to Letters from Beijing, right, the entire album was almost it's almost my like farewell to Beijing, because that's where I grew up, from the ages of 6 to 18. So it's almost my farewell to that after university. So I went to University of Kent, and
Reppin'.
Reppin', yeah. And after that, I released one album called Conversations from a Little Room, right? And
That's not on Spotify, is it?
no, it's not, for good reason. It's recorded terribly. My voice is awful in it, and the songs are okay, but like at some stage I will re-record it, because
cool.
it was like right at the beginning.
I'll hold
Didn't
you
know
to
what
that.
I was doing.
Yeah.
I really didn't know what I was doing. Like I was like,
So this was at the beginning of your production journey.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When I listen back to it, all I hear is the naivety of the decisions I was making, or production decisions I was making.
Okay, we'll stick a pin in that, but continue.
Yeah. So yeah, Letters from Beijing was it was like this like farewell kind of. It was a farewell to Beijing as I knew it, because Beijing and China is a place that changes so quickly that I found that every time I was going back to Beijing, like every year or every other year that I went back, the city had changed by 5 years maybe, and I was always thinking, how it must be to have a hometown that doesn't change, but you change. And instead, I had a hometown that was changing faster than I was changing.
That
So
must be a
it's
weird,
surreal.
yeah, experience.
So it was my attempt. Letters from Beijing. It was my attempt to fix it like a photograph, to fix that period of time, and the Beijing of that I had grown up in, and the Beijing of my memories that was just starting to recede. Even as I was writing the songs, the memories were starting to go.
That's a scary thought.
But even as you're recalling them, every time you recall a memory, right, you change the memory that you're recalling by recalling it. So,
because I think it's something like, I don't know if it's even true, but every time you recall a memory, what you're actually doing is recalling the memory of the memory.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the first time when you remember something, you're recalling the experience or your memory of the experience. But then every instance after that, you're kind of just remembering the memory of that.
Yeah.
So you kind of, it's like excessive compression over time. Where you just, it's like, it's not lossless quality. Do you feel like your upbringing, where you grew up, kind of influence sort of your musical narrative now? Do you feel like there's been a big influence of like Chinese culture on the music that you make? I know I don't specifically hear it, but maybe in like sort of like your processes or the decisions that you make, and
Yeah.
What is sort of like Chinese pop music like? Was that influential to you?
No, not particularly. I wouldn't. I should probably preface this by saying that while I did grow up in Beijing, I did go to an international school.
Okay.
So, I would say that my influences, well, also my recollection of Beijing is probably a different Beijing than people who were Beijing born and bred. And also, what was I going to say? I would say that the way it comes through is that I don't feel the need to stick within any particular genre. I don't feel the need to I don't feel. I feel like it's arbitrary if you say like, oh, I'm from this city, so I'm going to make this kind of music. This is my kind of inspiration. it's like saying that, oh, I'm from Sheffield, so I must make music that sounds like Arctic Monkeys, or like, oh, I'm from East London, and now I'm gonna make music that sounds like Block Party,
Yeah.
or I'm from Streatham, so like I'm just gonna make
Dave style beats.
beats, like I'm like the very fact that I'd grown up just surrounded by people of many different cultures.
Yeah.
A bunch of my friends were from all around the world, and we just happened to be in Beijing for various reasons. All of our parents had different jobs that brought them to Beijing, and having grown up around that, I consider my music to be a real amalgamation of all the different people that I've met, as opposed to a particular place. It does come into my music as well. And the odd thing is that I occasionally get people saying like, oh wow, like you do you listen to a lot of Chinese music, because in your melodies I can hear, because you use like certain Chinese melodies or Chinese sounding melodies. And my answer to that is not particularly. I don't listen to any more Chinese music than I listen to music of any other country. But people seem to hear elements of Chinese music and Chinese scales in my music. I suppose it must be there, but I think it's on a subconscious level or unconscious level. It
That
just
makes
pops
sense.
out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, personally, like, I haven't had much experience with Chinese music, so I haven't been able to recognize it in your music.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's a level of subconsciousness to it, right? Where what I'm making, especially when you're in like that flow state, it's not. Although it's you making it, it doesn't feel like it's you making it. It feels like it's kind of just like regurgitating or pouring out of you.
Yeah,
right.
Sure. Yeah.
Regurgitating might be, in my case, regurgitating. In his case, pouring.
Regurgitating means you've probably eaten something. You've eaten or you've consumed too much of one thing, and now you're like
Food
expelling it
poisoning.
all out.
Yeah.
So
But so I think that
you're too inspired, man.
I'm too inspired. It's just, but I think on some level there's like a subconscious element to it where like you don't necessarily know what it is you're creating until it's made, and whatever comes out is kind of just a sum of all your lived experiences, your influences, your inspirations, all just kind of grouped together in a way that it creates like a little bit of you. And I think we were talking about this previously, where it's like you've done this for long enough that even though I produced for you today,
Yeah.
it still sounds like you. Not, I don't mean vocally, because obviously it will always sound like you, but I mean like
Sure.
musically, it felt like it was your music that you'd left a fingerprint on, despite me producing it with a completely different set of tools, like different instruments, different like keys, different plugins for the most part.
Yeah.
Like sort of different process flow. It's still you, and all of your sort of influences and inspirations, they kind of just come through regardless. So I imagine there's an element of, despite you going to an international school, having been surrounded in sort of that, maybe it does come out in your music. I know I'm still trying to get in touch with sort of like my musical culture.
Yeah.
Obviously from like an Indian background, I grew up listening to a lot of Indian music, and I don't necessarily hear it in my songs, but I do want my culture to come through, and I think that'll be like a learning curve for me to try and get in touch with that musically in a way that I can bring that in without it just being like
Pastiche.
Yeah, I don't want it to just be like, oh, I'm just throwing it in to take advantage of the fact that this is my culture.
Yeah,
It's like I want it to be, I want it to come out naturally because I've learned enough about my like culture musically that it comes through in my music as opposed to it being thrown into my music.
Yeah. So the difference between, like, for me, the difference between throwing in a pipa or like an erhu, Chinese classical instruments, throwing it into a song and using it instead of a guitar, just because I want to demonstrate that I've got Chinese heritage.
Yeah.
And the difference between that and actually utilizing certain elements of my past and my experience and my perception of where I grew up the perception of my culture, and not consciously saying, "Oh, I'm going to use that to make a point," but to have it actually flow within my music. You know, it's the same thing for you. I'm sure you don't want to instead of a hi hat, you put like some tabla in. You know.
I mean, I've got one right there.
No. I noticed. Yeah.
I'm waiting for the opportunity to use it in a way that doesn't seem like
Yeah.
you know, forced. But I think 100%. Like, I want to be available and like aware and also like inclusive of the fact that I've got this cultural upbringing and it has impacted like my inspirations and the music I listen to, and I want that to be prevalent in the things that I make. But I want it to come through naturally in the same way that like I've listened to a lot of blues,
Sure.
and so a lot of the vocals I do, they'll have like blues riffs in them, but that comes naturally. I'm not forcing it. It's like there's just because of my experience with it, I've listened to it a lot and I like the way it sounds, and like you'll get that like those like minor like notes that come after each other. It's like it just sounds really pleasing to my ear. But I want that to be the same thing with like my like Indian side of things, where it's like I want it to just come through and it sounds good. I don't want it to like I don't want to have to force it to sound good, because I think when you're doing that, you're kind of just you're not playing with like creativity. You're kind of just playing with trying to intentionally be something.
Yeah. You see, the funny thing is that I did actually use an ohu recently, and for me, the ohu can be a very melancholic instrument if used right. And I did use it for that purpose.
For those that don't know, can you describe what a nohu is?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, an ohu is a stringed instrument. That's it's got two strings actually, and you play it with a bow, and you can either bow against one of the strings, or like push or pull against the strings, like that way or that way. I've just realized that. You're either bowing while pushing outwards or bowing while pulling inwards.
Okay.
And it leads to a very sustained sound, a bit like a cello, but higher pitched. And to me, it's a very melancholic sound. So for one of the songs that I was doing, which is based around. Well, it's almost a. It's almost the main chorus goes like believe in me, regardless of who I might be today. So it's almost like a plea to like just I will get there, if that makes sense, and I will become the person that I said that I would be, or that I promised I would be. And to me, that's the sound of the who adds to that. But I'm not doing it because like hey everyone, I'm Chinese. You know what I mean? Like it's the associations that I've got within me that makes me use that as the lead instrument. It's like a
It feels a creative purpose.
yeah. It's like a drone that goes through the chorus. You know. I'll play it for you soon.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
It's probably going to be on the album too. So
awesome. I'd really love to hear that. I mean, I'm hoping to get a sneak peek of the album at some point, but I feel like bringing those sort of like little elements in, and it also creates like variety as well, because I feel like I want to try and accumulate and work with as many instruments as possible.
Yeah, same.
Because I think it's like such a cool, like different instruments have such different textures, and one thing that I've always been in love with is sort of like brass, like saxophone and trumpets, and they're also the sort of like the one instrument that you don't really get many good plugins for, because they're very difficult to recreate. At least like naturally, everything sounds kind of flat or like lifeless, and it doesn't have like the depth that you would get from like a live sax player or a live trumpet player.
Yeah, I found that the only ones that are halfway convincing are they're called well, I've forgotten exactly what it's called, but it's SWAM, SWAM,
Yeah.
and they, if I'm not mistaken, they use physical modeling as opposed to just recording samples,
And that's usually what.
and that's
Yeah.
usually what holds certain sample libraries back. And I'm convinced that that's also one of the reasons why if you look at sample libraries, you get a lot of string libraries, and they all seem to be based around many instruments playing at once, like simultaneously.
Like an
You got like
orchestra. Yeah.
yeah, because it's easier to get that sound than to do high quality samples of one violin, one cello. You know.
I mean, even was it Spitfire Audio?
Yeah,
Use
Spitfire
labs.
Audio,
Like
yeah.
it's pretty good, but it's still not. It's not the same as when you. I mean, it'll never be the same. I guess using a plugin, you can create sort of like cool MIDI patterns that will allow you to make something that sounds lifelike. But I don't know. Is that those? I'm assuming those are sampled instruments as
Oh
opposed
yeah,
to
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like
Spitfire Labs for sure. But like Spitfire, was it symphonic strings? I
okay.
think. Or some of the 8 Dio stuff that you can get. It's getting there. It's getting there, and 10 years ago it wasn't even close to this.
No.
And there are ways to fake it actually with if you go into velocities and just you pretty much have to hand draw each velocity the velocity of each string line,
Yeah.
or each like horn line, and you can make it sound a lot more lifelike. But it's just time consuming,
It is.
But
it's funny that you touch on that though, because I feel like velocity is such a thing people forget about in terms of like how much it actually affects the sound.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
the
for sure.
how hard you press the keys or how hard like or volume, is that the right word to use? But it's like it's just the velocity of the sound that's playing or the note that's playing. It makes a very big difference to like the timbre of the sound and like how it sort of like sits with the rest of the notes that are playing, because making something sound lifelike means it's not monotonous and there's not like a single, like there's dynamics in it that create the sound of it being real, like
Yeah.
air quotes real.
Yeah.
Even with guitar, like if you play something at the same pitch, sorry, the same like with the same dynamics on every single note, it doesn't sound real at all. And the same thing with keys, like if you
Yeah.
play everything at the same time and in the same like velocity, it doesn't sound real. You need some sort of like lag between the notes, and then also like you'll press the first key harder than you'll press the second, then the
Yeah.
third, because that's
Yeah.
kind of just how your finger moves, and that's what creates sort of like the lifelike sound of a piano, as opposed to something that just sounds like it's been plugged in via MIDI. Which is a weird thing, trying to make things sound imperfect to create the sound of something that's lifelike.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that recently, or well, not recently, but like without sounding like old man shouts at cloud or back in my day, the um, with the way that music's mixed and mastered these days, especially pop music, it's squashed to an absolute, it's squashed as much as you pretty much can squash it, in the everything will be ultra compressed,
So it's all limited to
or
0.01
yeah,
dB.
or just limited to the point of everything, to be honest, becoming very much uniform volume.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that while we're talking about how to make more lifelike instruments, more lifelike MIDI, we're talking about like quantization, or quantizing, and talking about velocity and like volume, right? That's a lot of the time these days. I don't really hear that in a lot of the like modern music production. That a lot of the drums, for instance, are just locked to a certain velocity. They're very, very quantized, and I mean, like everyone's like, so. To me, maybe that's the reason why I find like a lot of like modern production kind of almost artificial sounding. That it everything sounds too perfect to be true. And then you get someone like Sophie, who, oh my god, who just like who does the best out of that, and just pushes it to, and it's hyperpop, right? And just like hyperpop just pushes it to another dimension where they look at how artificial you can make a sound, how artificial you can make a song,
Yeah.
and then lean into it and push into that direction, and that's an art form in itself.
It is.
Oh man,
I mean,
yeah.
but the thing is that
Sophie's production's so cool, man.
yeah, no, it is. I think that in itself is like a whole other thing, because although you're not making it lifelike, you're creating something that has life, like to it, right? Because
hey,
profound. Call me a philosopher, but it's
yeah.
like it's weird because, like you said, like you can make something sound robotic and quantized and boring and dull because it has no dynamics, because you've compressed the shit out of it and it's limited to hell and everything's on grid. But then if you do that and then just steer right into it, now it becomes intentional, right? And now it becomes a creative sort of choice. And if you keep steering into it, now you've got something that is life full as opposed to lifeless, right? Because you've added so many layers and you've got like 15 different synths and they're all filling up everywhere between 1000 and 2000 hertz, like,
and they've all got like notches.
Yeah, they've all got notches.
Each one has like particular in the EQ.
It fits the pocket. It fits the pocket. Sorry, yeah. But and that, because you've intentionally done that and you've created like this specific sound that has like meaning behind it, almost, it works. It's not.
It does.
And it makes something that should be lifeless, lifeful, and have like its own dynamics. And then obviously her voice is like probably going to be carrying a lot, and like.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's not. You know, I mean, I say lifeless, but that's my interpretation of it. You know, what I think is overcompressed. It's just someone else's normal, and then everything else is undercompressed compared to them. Like if they're thinking about it, and that's okay. You know, if I think something sounds really like limited and really, you know, really lifeless, as you put it, that's because it's not to my taste, you know.
So subjective.
Yeah, and the good thing is that as an independent musician, I don't need to make music that is ultra limited and which I can or which I find doesn't fulfill my need when listening to music. There's other people who do that, and then I can just concentrate on what I want to express and what I want to, what you know, the kind of music that makes me go, ooh. Yeah. as opposed to music that makes me go, okay, I'd like to mix that again.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. I mean, very rarely do I not like a song because of the mix. It's usually because of the idea that I've created. It's because a mix is just something, I don't like the way that sounds, the way it sits. But if I don't actually like the song, that will never be down to like my mixing decisions, really. Because I know I can improve the mix. I can improve what it needs more compression, or I need to carve out some of the muddiness or the boxiness in the EQ. I know I can fix that. But if I don't like the song, it's probably because of the songwriting choices that I've made and the creative decisions that I've taken. In which case, either I need to change something, or maybe I just don't like the idea that I started with. But
well, it's like This Is It, right? The Strokes album.
Yeah,
you know,
I've not listened to that, but
it's recorded it's recorded and mixed in an odd way. You know, that it sounds. It's recorded in a very like garage rock kind of way. In that it's deliberately non-modern sounding, but it's a classic because the songs are great. The first Strokes album has amazing songs. If you weren't writing songs of that caliber, the production, like, it just becomes bad production. You know? Whereas even if you had made those songs and recorded them and mixed them in a really modern way, they would still be great songs, and I bet you they would still be successful. So this is successful in spite of and because of its production.
Yeah.
And that's like something I really like, And I was like, have you ever listened to Seal's second album, just Seal 2?
No, I don't believe so. But I might be wrong. I might have listened to it and just not remembered that.
Well, you certainly heard Kiss from a Rose.
Yeah. Is that from the second album?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
okay, then I have listened to it.
Yeah. But it like that whole
Shout out
album
to
has shout out to Seal, yeah. That whole album has amazing production. And Trevor Horn is the producer on that, and he's
okay.
fantastic. Just like really timeless production.
Yeah.
And every time Seal teams up with Trevor Horn,
bangers.
Yeah, you can be sure that the album will sound great, and Seal's voice will be incredibly powerful and intimate at the same time.
Yeah.
How did we get here? Production. Yes.
But actually, kind of stemming off from that, because there was a question I wanted to ask you, is sort of, what do you think makes... I know you said, like, the songs were timeless. What do you think creates timeless music? What does that mean to you?
What does that mean to me?
Yeah. Like, thinking of, like, sort of the music that you've listened to growing up, and you still listen to, and you still enjoy, not just because it has nostalgia to it, but because it feels timeless, despite when it was made. Very ethereal question, that one, but
music that is music that more than anything is honest, I think, is one of the key criteria for to make music that stands the test of time. Timeless music, or music that, a song that sounds like it's existed for, forever. Emotional honesty, I think, and
100%.
Not allowing trends, production trends, songwriting trends, lyrical trends, or even like genre related trends to affect that emotional honesty, that emotional content, the musical and lyrical content. Not allowing trends to change that. Because I always liken this to two different eras in music, right? That if you listen to the New Romantics in the early 80s, if you listen to like early electronic music, after Kraftwerk, but like before mid 80s Depeche Mode, there's outside of the songs that everyone like knows or has in their head, like like Enola Gay is an example of that, or Pure by, is it Lightning Seeds?
I don't know.
Or a couple of other like early 80s tracks, some Culture Club stuff, if you listen to the songs that aren't still being played today, a lot of them really leaned into the trends of early 80s synth based music,
the disco era,
post disco.
I mean, the 80s was a notoriously weird time for music.
Yeah.
I mean, specifically thinking about like Hairspray rock.
But that's also a good example though, because
A lot of the songs did with like, I mean, like Bon Jovi,
yeah,
right? Like Aerosmith, are they 90s?
70s into 80s and 90s into
Early
they've
2000s.
been around for
Yeah, they've been
ages.
around for a
Yeah,
while. But like, I think every rock band had their weird era in the 80s, but some of those songs have withstood the test of time.
but yeah, but you don't hear the songs by terrible hair metal bands
No,
in like.
no, those bands probably didn't withstand the test of
No,
time.
they didn't. They didn't. Like, there's certain songs by, like, bands like, I don't know who's like, Winger.
Not heard of them.
There's a reason. Or there's a bunch of like random 80s bands that just they leaned so much into what was popular at the time that
Yeah.
that they are borderline unlistenable today. You know, or to me, anyways. I mean,
No, I
no
get
offense
it.
to any
I'm sure
gigantic Winger fans out there.
I'm sure there are many, but
Yeah, but
there's gonna be like an element of they steered too hard into the trends and then got lost once the trends kind of moved on.
yeah.
It's like those people that are still wearing skinny jeans.
Yeah, I just looked down. I just looked down on my own jeans.
No, that was just me poking fun.
Yeah.
I think
I was like post grunge, like
Yeah.
like you for a while, like everyone was singing like this. And,
everyone was trying to be Kurt Cobain.
or
Dave
Eddie
Grohl.
Vedder,
Yeah.
and it's like, so then there's a bunch of like disposable bands of every generation. There's a bunch of disposable music in every generation, right?
Disposable music is a really good way to put it. I think.
But I'd almost argue that each one of these, so-called disposable bands, or disposable music, they didn't write one of the songs that is going to be timeless, because people still listen to "Sweet Child of Mine," right?
Yeah,
That's a timeless
that
song.
was a timeless
That's
song.
a timeless song.
Yeah. Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith. Sort of like anything out of that Rolling Stones era.
"Rock You Like a Hurricane" by Scorpions. Like timeless songs, but there's this. If you listen to some of the, the back catalog of some of those bands, like, then it's just not very good.
No,
It's not very good stuff.
but
that's my opinion.
no, I completely get it though. But there was a whole thing about like just musicians and artists in that era that they were so prolific with the amount of music they released, like the amount of albums that they would do. They would release an album every single year, or like long ass like 15 to 20 song albums regularly.
But you understood that at the time because you could make money out of album sales at the time. And it wasn't just go on a 200 night tour, or go on a world tour every other year or every year, because people were still buying CDs, people were still buying records. So there was the incentive for them to constantly be
churning out music.
And
not everything is going to be your creative masterpiece.
No.
But I suppose you're more likely to stumble upon the timeless songs when you have had the opportunity to release 10 double albums. I mean, if you think about Bob Dylan, he's probably the most prolific songwriter ever. I don't know how many albums. He's released something like 50 studio albums, or like studio/live/EPs.
I'll refer you to Cool Keith.
Cool Keith?
The rapper.
Is he done more?
Oh, yeah. He's ultra prolific, of various qualities. But, shout out Cool Keith. Shout out Dr. Octagon. He's I love Cool Keith. He's one of the originators of the offbeat rap, offbeat like cadence. Like it's super offbeat. Like he's like deliberately rapping on top of the beat as opposed to he's like.
I think you showed me him one time.
I think I probably did. Yeah. Everyone I work with ends up having listened to Cool Keith a couple of times. That and the Soviet Russian indie band Oksyon.
Yeah, you definitely showed me that.
Oksyon,
Yeah, I think you showed me Cool Keith and them on the same day.
Yeah. I mean that's the thing. Like one of the one of the bands that really stood the test of time is Kino, the Russian band Kino, and they're pretty much the Russian like Rolling Stones, right?
Okay.
And their songs they still get played today, and they're like legendary songs. But they didn't lean those timeless songs that are still being played today did not lean heavily into the time period they were in. Whereas they've got some other songs that were really influenced by 80s dance music. And they sound super dated.
That makes sense. I feel like you kind of hit the nail on the head of if you make music for the time that you're in, it by its own nature will not be timeless music
To
an extent, right? Because obviously like you're gonna make music that is kind of based upon like the era you grew up in and what your inspirations are. That's one thing. But then if you make music specifically for the time that you are in, based upon what is in the charts right now, creatively is probably not going to be very original to like your own stuff. Generally, it's going to be quite different to what you usually make because like how likely is it that unless you are an artist that came up in this specific time period, in which case in 5 years you're going to be outdated.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different sort of music to what you usually make, right? And then that sort of structure will not withstand 5 to 10 years when beat patterns change and instruments change and singing styles change. Like I know, like drill's changed a lot over the last 10 years. 5 to 10 years. And sort of the kind of rappers that are coming out now, they all exhibit a very similar cadence.
Yeah.
That is based upon like South London sort of drill.
Yeah.
Right. Whether or not that withstands the test of time is kind of yet to be seen because it'll either branch off and create its own sort of subgenre.
Yeah.
Or it will be one of those things that is going to be seen as a fad in like 5 to 10 years where these artists aren't relevant any longer because the musical direction has changed. And I'm not like kind of calling out anyone for taking that sort of musical direction because the music you make sounds good, but it's always a danger of when you base your entire sort of artistry on music that is very specific to a time period.
Yeah.
Once that time period is over, you're no longer a relevant artist.
Yeah.
And you haven't developed your artistry to go and explore other things because you've been fixated on like this one style of music that existed for a specific period of time.
Well, it's like coming up, like 2010, 2011, 2012. I knew a couple of electronic like music producers who became very, very good at making dubstep.
Yeah. When dubstep was huge back
when dubstep was huge. And
kind of coming back.
I don't
in
like
a different way.
I think well, it doesn't really matter what I think, but like
it does. You're the only guest on this podcast, so your word is gospel.
But it's like when you get a band like Korn, Korn released the dubstep album, right?
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's not really necessary. Or when you think about nu metal, right? And you got a bunch of nu metal artists that came out around the year 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. And if they base their entire sound on nu metal and the conventions of that, the chances are they would not have created any timeless songs, unless they were the originators of the sound. Because I suppose people love Linkin Park now.
Yeah,
they've had a real comeback. I love Linkin Park.
I think everyone did. I think everyone that grew up sort of like early 2000s. Yeah, they have like a special place in their heart for Linkin Park.
Yeah, them and System of a Down, man.
So I never got into System of a Down.
Oh, I love them.
For me, it was Nickelback.
Oh no,
I loved Nickelback. Yeah, Nickelback was my sort of like founding father of rock, essentially, which is kind of wild. But honestly, like they get a lot of hate, but they created a crap ton of music,
Mm.
and a lot of it was very good. In terms of like musically, it was good. Like lyrically good. Like they just got a lot of hate for some reason, and I think at some point like the next gen will discover them and they'll probably get like an upswing or whatever. But I know like there was like a weird time period where everyone hated on Nickelback, but that was just because they were like popular rock, and there wasn't. You had what, Nickelback, Avril Lavigne, who else that was popular rock, like Fall Out Boy, but that was after.
Foo Fighters, arguably.
Foo Fighters, but Foo Fighters was a bit more edgy.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't like pop rock. It was still like rock, like following.
No, I mean, what
Nirvana.
are we talking? 2002, 2003, 2004? That era?
U2?
I mean, U2's just been around forever.
Yeah, they've been around for longer than I've been born, so.
Same, actually. Yeah, I feel like this is just turning into us talking about our favourite artists.
100%, as it should.
Um,
But speaking of which, okay, since we're going down favourite artists or route, who do you feel has kind of defined you musically? Who are your founding fathers of music? Who kind of created the base or the shoulders upon which you stand?
When I'm creating music, or just my perception of music in general?
Both, I think, because they might not be necessarily related, but they are somewhat linked.
See, for a long time, my big three were Tom Waits, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Yep.
And Stone Temple Pilots and Scott Weiland.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say that I make music that sounds like Tom Waits.
No.
I don't think anyone makes music that sounds like Tom Waits, and that's a wonderful thing. Nick Cave as well. He makes Nick Cave music, you know.
Yep.
And even in bringing up those two and the esteem which I hold them in, I might add Doorway, who's a Chinese was a Chinese rock singer. He ended up becoming one of the godfathers of Chinese ambient music.
Ambient?
Yeah.
As in like...
Ambient.
Oh.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I was like, oh, guys are just tripping on ambient and listening to his songs. That's a great niche.
Chinese ambient music, and he started blending his Taoist beliefs in with his music, and
that's cool as fuck.
Yeah, so and he uses a lot of traditional Chinese instruments as well. But these are all artists that I reckon have a very strong sound and very strong sonic signature, that they sound like themselves. They write music like themselves. They're very much, and they've never really tried to do anything different than just make music that
sounds like them.
That sounds like them, and it is a pure expression of the way that they see the world. You know, Mark Lanigan's another one, and I tend to just like artists with deeper, more growly voices, I suppose. Okshan is a great one. They really do sound like no one else, and that's fantastic. But people either love them or don't really like them at all.
I think the best music is almost... I mean, there's universally acclaimed music, but then some of the best songs tend to be from artists that a lot of people hate or don't really connect with, and then there'll be like a little niche, a pocket of people that will absolutely adore their music.
Someone like Björk.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of her music, but I really respect her. I really love her approach towards music, probably more, and the way that she sees music and sees creativity. I probably like that more than the actual output of the work. You know?
You can respect the artistry.
Yeah. Someone like Kimber as well.
Who's that?
You know how Gotcha had the Someone I Used to Know song.
Oh yeah.
So Kimber was the female voice in that one.
Oh no way.
But she's also like she writes often sickly sweet pop music that is actually really harmonically complex. like really surprisingly so. Like if you take a listen to a song called Cameo Lover.
Cameo Lover.
Yeah. It's harmonically a very harmonically complicated song for a pop song, but she makes it sound effortless, and it sounds really sugary. But she later on kind of disclosed it was about depression. But you wouldn't know it based on the song.
I like that though. Not the depression.
I like the depression though.
Because I think, yeah, there's an element of that. But like writing music that doesn't necessarily have like a specific meaning, or like as in when it's heard, it doesn't have a specific meaning that you can tell that the artist intended. Like, and it leaves the listener to kind of derive their own meaning from the music. And then maybe at some point you'll find out what the artist actually intended, and you'll be like, no way. But there's something cool about, I know Quentin Tarantino likes to write parts into his movie that don't have backstory. Like he'll write something into the movie that it will be like visually shown, but he won't explain it. And it's up to the audience to kind of fill in that part of the backstory for themselves. So 5 different people watching the movie will see something that happened on screen, and they'll all have like a different idea of what that represents or what it means, because they've seen. I think the example was Brad Pitt. He had like rope burn around his neck, so you could tell at some point he'd been hanged. In Inglourious Bastards,
but not having to explain that.
But not explaining it, and that was just like an element that kind of made a lot of sense to me, because I was like, okay, you want to create little worlds inside your listeners' heads, right? I mean, part of music is always very introspective, is very reflective, is very like for yourself. But the moment it's out there, it's part of the common consensus. So when people interpret it, having things that are open to interpretation is really cool, because you might not know exactly what the artist intended. Only the artist knows that.
That's the thing I like about artists that are very that look upon their vocation as them expressing themselves to them expressing themselves as like honestly as they can, because if they're not trying to make music that caters to their listener, they will be less inclined perhaps to explain everything, to have a unambiguous lyric, like a lyric that is clearly about a teenage crush, for instance. But you know, to make music that is more, allows for more interpretation. You know, like something more akin to like a Kieslowski film, as opposed to funnily enough, the first name that comes to my mind is Tarantino, but I'm gonna say like Michael Bay, you know?
Yeah.
Where the explosion doesn't symbolize anything else than, you know, that exploded.
Yeah.
You know? And sometimes that's what you want. Sometimes you want to watch a man run away from an explosion, and the explosion is just an explosion. Like, it's not a reflection of his grief at the, I don't know, like the demise of demise of you know, tribes in the Amazon rainforest that have lost their that have lost their homes due to deforestation.
That's not
like,
funny, but the example
it's like that's it. You know, like it's not that.
It's so meta.
It's literally just an explosion.
Yeah, it's just
and you know, to me, like, great pop music is music that does both.
100%.
Like music that's like that you think is just an explosion, and then after you delve into the story behind it, or after you really look at the lyrics, you're like, oh my god, it's about the Amazon rainforest. You know?
Yeah.
Like That's the kind of like pop music that I really like.
It's like,
Well,
do you know Chocolate by the 1975?
no, I don't actually.
Okay, so that song is about weed.
Oh,
It took me
yeah,
8 years to find that out.
really.
Yeah.
What is it? What does it front itself as?
I mean, it basically fronts itself as that, but like,
Oh,
but rather than saying weed, they say chocolate. Like, she smells like chocolate. And
oh, sure.
I took that literally for the entirety of me growing up, and then it got explained to me. No. That's just a
Mm,
metaphor for weed. She smells like
mm,
weed, and I was like, oh, that makes the rest of the song make way more
mm,
sense. Like,
mm.
um, but it's kind of, I mean, your example was considerably more impactful than She Smells Like Weed. I was like, oh, the burning of the Amazon rainforest is like deforestation is causing homelessness. Like, that's obviously way more. There's a message there, but
No, I mean, I mean, I can't think of any songs that have an explosion, but I actually, well, I mean, I can think of a couple songs that
the
might
Beatles
be,
have a lot like that,
yeah.
where I think a lot of them musically they were very like um both expressive and then they tried a lot of things,
Mm,
right? I know, like in Sergeant Pepper's, they started bringing in like sitar and like because
mm,
George Harrison spent a lot of time with Ravi Shankar, and lyrically as well, like John Lennon and Paul McCartney, they created a
mm,
lot of songs that they don't necessarily have literal meanings, but the song
mm.
itself has like a wider meaning.
Yeah,
And then if you look into the lyrics individually, like they all have like this element of, oh, this is about this, and then this is about that, and then this is just about being like free, and this is about
yeah.
like they represent sort of like ideas
Mm.
and
I will mention the band No Party for 草东 or 草东没有派对, which is a Taiwanese indie band, and they sound a bit like Block Party crossed with, I don't know, crossed with who, to be honest. But they wrote a very, very powerful song about the struggles that Taiwanese young people of this generation have been having with the stagnating wages that they've had, or stagnating wages in Taipei and Taiwan in general, and the general unaffordability of life, and how that's affecting the how that's affecting their lives,
world. Okay.
or in particular in Taiwan.
Is there a particular like how do you, how do you come across Taiwanese music in a way that you found? Do you speak Taiwanese?
I speak Mandarin Chinese.
Okay, does that what?
Yeah.
They speak Mandarin.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so so there's not like a language barrier to you understanding the
No,
music.
I mean, there's an element of me trying to keep my cultural heritage alive. Well, not that it's dying, but spending the vast majority of my time in the UK means that I've started to feel more remote from my cultural heritage, and a large amount of what I do to stay connected with it is, apart from food, so I can cook up a storm.
Bet.
Yeah. But apart from that, is through cultural exports. So films, and in particular music. That's how I kind of keep in touch.
Those are big ways to like kind of relate to your own culture as well. I think because I'm assuming cinema is like a big deal there as well.
Yeah. It's there was a golden generation. I think it's the second generation of Taiwanese filmmakers, and they pioneered a particular kind of filmmaking that might be familiar to Western audiences more if they've seen Ang Lee films. So Ang Lee was one of the directors of that wave, along with Edward Yang and I can never pronounce his name. Xiao. I just call him Xiao.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you've seen Brokeback Mountain,
Yep. With Heath Ledger and
yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal,
Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah.
you have seen what is functionally a slow Taiwanese film. And what else? Chloe Zhao as well, who directed Nomadland. Nomadland is very reminiscent to me, anyways, of a second generation Taiwanese film, but with less of an emphasis on particularly Taiwanese stories or urban isolation, because a lot of the films are about urban isolation and feeling lonely in a big city. It's more. Nomadland is an example of. I feel like Chloe Zhao must have been influenced by some of those second generation filmmakers. I'd expect that, based on her directing style. I don't know that much about her, to be honest. I just watched Nomadland.
To be honest, I don't think you need to, because I feel like music is very saturated, right? Now, film has a much higher barrier to entry than music does nowadays. It's going less because anyone can make a movie at home, right?
But in terms of like attention spans.
In terms of attention spans, and then also like big budget movies from smaller countries, right? Having like a movie or a director in like countries like Taiwan must provide a much bigger figurehead for like people to look up to and gain inspiration from, to then go and want to pursue a similar sort of career, right? Because I know for like, if you take like the Bollywood industry, massive, absolutely massive. It's like either the biggest or the second biggest movie industry in the world, right? It's either Hollywood or Bollywood. I don't know which one's bigger. But there's so many movies, so many directors, that I feel like everyone in India wants to be an actor or an actress or whatever, right?
Sure.
Or they want to be a director. But in countries that are smaller, there's the impact of those directors is far greater. Like the individual directors will create many more points of inspiration for like people that are coming up and that want to go into that.
Yeah, I know what you mean, actually.
If that makes sense. It's like, when you go back in the day and you think of you kind of had that with music between like the 50s and the 70s, right? You had few key people that inspired a generation. You had Hendrix, you had the Beatles, you had Elvis. Elvis was a massive inspiration for the Beatles. I'm pretty sure it's the reason the Beatles exist is probably because of Elvis.
Quite possibly.
Nowadays, there's such a there's so many, everyone's got similar sort of like people that inspire them. But in terms of like the general populace, there's so many people that they like, right? It's a very saturated market. But like, I imagine the music market in Taiwan and then also the film industry in Taiwan is probably way more impactful to like the youth generation that is growing up watching these things or listening to them.
I'd say to an extent, the undeniable truth of the matter is that with the internet, that's allowed a lot of that's allowed how there used to be different tribes. There used to be different like creative tribes within a particular region, and they used to like be very influenced by other people within that group. So you've got like the sixth generation of Chinese filmmakers.
Yeah.
For instance, you're like Zhang Yimou and your Jia Zhangke, and just to name a couple of them, that they kind of belonged within a similar kind of pool, and they had their community. But I've found that with the internet, it's not that easy to have a more localized community anymore, because everyone can just jump on Instagram.
Everyone's global.
Yeah, everything's global. So it's like the global village now, right? That's what sociologists call it. That you almost have to deliberately seek out independent scenes, independent music, independent filmmakers, independent like creators, and you almost have to seek that out. And I guess that's the way it always was. But now you've also got the internet, and you know, I'm not criticizing that by any means, because the internet has had an indelible impact on the way that I create music. You know, not only the fact that I'm able to listen to music from anywhere in the world instantly. I'm able to you know, take influences from all around the world, or someone can record a sample library in you know, South Africa, and then I can use it in my music. You know, and that's the you know, I suppose the other thing is that if I wasn't connected, or if we weren't connected to the internet, it would be difficult to make music alone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That you would truly be alone,
Yeah.
if you will. Like if you made music in your room in the '60s, that's it. No one's listening to it. Like no one's hearing it. Like you can't put it out there, or
unless you've got a deal.
yeah, unless you got a record deal.
There wasn't no DistroKid back in the 60s.
Yeah.
So
Or CD Baby.
or CD Baby, TuneCore.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, like the internet has been the biggest tool in terms of me learning everything that I know.
Same.
Because I think without the internet, I've grown up with the internet. So being able to, because I taught myself guitar, but I don't think I could have done that had I not been able to go online and find tabs.
Yeah.
Right. Or same thing in music production. Like YouTube has been a huge resource of me learning how to produce music, and then just being able to Google stuff, Reddit, like forums, all manner of like sort of like hubs on the internet where you can go to get information, and then from people who are much more like accomplished or intelligent, or just they just have
different perspectives that you can actually kind of tap into, and then they'll be interested in your perspectives as well. You know, and you know, this exchange of information is fantastic, but
it's also scary.
It's also scary. Wonderful, but scary.
Yeah.
And
because there's one thing about like I mean, you can't gatekeep information anymore, which I'm kind of happy about, because I don't think information should be gatekept. I think if anyone wants to become a music producer, they should, like, even if you've got the time to put the time in and just learn how to do it, because you can learn how to do it now.
Yeah.
This isn't like you don't have to go to music school. I mean, that probably makes a massive difference. I'm not someone who's been to music school, so I can't kind of speak on
I mean, I'm not either.
The effectiveness of it, right? But like, I imagine there is a purpose for it, but I don't feel like you don't need music school to make music anymore, and you don't need a label to release music anymore. You can do that off of your own back. You can be truly independent now.
Yes.
It's hard work. Because I know, for example, like you did your own album artwork.
Yeah.
For Emperor Part 1 and Emperor Part 2.
Yeah, I did.
Albums out on Spotify.
But you did the same thing for Clarity, though.
Yeah, the same for Clarity. I didn't draw it, though.
No,
so that was just like a mini photo shoot I did in my hallway. But you actually spoke, because I know I've seen the actual framed editions of your album artwork. You've gone through and painstakingly like drawn out like the leaf structures and everything.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming you've done some sort of like computer generated text as opposed to like writing text down, right? But like that's part of just being independent, is like doing everything yourself. But you can do those things because you've learned how to this needs to be in like a square format, 3000 by 3000 pixels or whatever, right? I feel like that's such a big impact on the whole musical culture, like having the internet to be able to teach you and then learn from other people and then collaborate with other people. Like I met you through the internet. Like that's been a huge thing to be able to like have that tool. But then I don't know, there's probably a dark side to it.
Well, to me the darker side of it is that as soon as something can be commodified, it becomes commodified. Like, so the moment that music streaming became a significant problem for the record industry, that's or not music streaming, like illegally downloading.
Yeah,
that's when the idea that okay, well, if we can no longer gatekeep the content, we should gatekeep the convenience.
Yeah.
So make as convenient of a way of making or of like delivering music or listening to music, the whole music experience, make that as convenient as possible, and then you control the means of not the means of production, but you control the means of
Distribution. Yeah.
You know, so then you can squeeze artists dry,
Yeah.
and it's not too dissimilar to what a music record label used to do back in the day. They're just becoming more subtle about it. I mean, everyone knows that Spotify is pretty much it's like a predatory kind of pricing system for artists, you know, that they earn close to nothing on streams. Everyone knows that.
I mean, I think it's effectively 1 million streams for £1,000.
Something really ridiculous like that, and it's there's something wrong has gone down there. Like how is this? How is it possible to get music from all around the world? You know, get playlists and everyone's become a playlist curator, which on paper should be awesome, right? But instead, you've got a predatory streaming service that pays close to nothing, and then within the algorithms themselves of how music is played, how music is selected, and how music is playlisted, that's changed the way that music creators, music is being changed actively by the listening habits of people on streaming services. So, you know, I know some artists as well who are making music for playlists.
Yep.
To be playlisted, because that's the only way that they can break through and look to earn popularity, and then look to earn some money off of like live income, like live gigs, you know. So they're making music that sounds more like other music than the other music sounds like other music, you know, or the other music sounds like itself. Like I was listening to Krangbin the other day.
Okay.
And I ended up playing a little game with myself that, like, saying Krangbin or wants to sound like Krangbin. And half the time I was not getting it right.
Yeah.
That a song would play and I'd be like, oh, that sounds like Laura Lee, that sounds like Mark Spear or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not them. It's someone else who's trying to sound like Krangbin. And it works because it got placed on a playlist that was automatically generated by Spotify.
Yeah, like Spotify Radio.
Yeah, and it was like, how has a world of music out there accessible at your fingertips resulted in a lot of up and coming artists making music that sounds much more like other music? It's a little bit frustrating for me that artists are either subconsciously or consciously making the choice to make music that works on playlists. It's like making music that sounds good on elevators, or like, you know, like lift music or shopping music. Like,
I mean, that all serves a function, but
it all serves a function.
But I think
know.
the problem is it's kind of like a race to the bottom, right? Because and it's also over time it's like the culture ends up chasing its own tail, because it's like, if you think about AI generated content, right? Once you get to the point where AI itself is generating content, or like creating things that end up on the internet, then the AI is learning from things that AI has created.
Yeah.
So it's effectively just becoming a positive feedback loop, and eventually you get to the point where AI can create more content than people are creating. In which case, most of the content that is available, by content I mean like information that is available, is
AI generated.
Is AI generated.
Yeah.
So how reliable will AI be at that point when it's learning from it, and
itself.
Not itself, but learning from the stuff that it's already put out? It's not like machine learning kind of thing. It's like, okay, it's like 90% of the information on the internet has been AI generated, but the AI is learning from that 90% it's generated itself.
And then it's generating more content that it is then, you know, using to generate more content.
Yeah.
So it's like a snake eating its own tail.
And that's the
and
same
after a
thing.
while,
Yeah.
the snake becomes like the head of the snake becomes the tail of the snake, and
Yeah.
it just becomes one big snake.
Just one big snake. It's a circle of life.
Yes,
But like,
well, yeah,
but it's the same thing with like the whole algorithm thing, which is if you make music for the algorithm, then the algorithm is going to push that music, and then other people make music for that algorithm, then the algorithm just starts like feeding on itself because it knows that's what works, right? I mean, I don't understand how the algorithm necessarily works, but it's
Yeah.
like I'm assuming that's what it works on, like similar interests and like watch time and all this kind of stuff, and like
BPMs as well, certainly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then you just end up with this like standardized version of, or everything's going to be at 120 BPM, everything's going to be in C major, everything's going to use these 4 chords,
Yeah.
everything's going to like have like it's going to be a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus, a verse, a bridge, a chorus. That's it.
I mean, we're arguably seeing it already. You know, we were seeing it in a lot of popular music these days has very similar structures. You know, there's that old joke that you know, every Taylor Swift song has exactly the same structure, and it works. It works though, and that's yeah, more power to her if it's working. But
shout out to Taylor Swift.
Tay Tay. But to me, it's not particularly interesting. You know, I sometimes I sometimes have the radio on and I just want to hear what's coming up. You know, what music is actually popular these days, and once again not to sound like an old man shouting at the cloud, but I do feel like I'm finding it difficult to differentiate between some of the music that's being played.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there is a homogeneity to it.
But that's the thing though. It serves a purpose.
It does.
It serves a purpose. Like if you were on Instagram making content for Instagram, you know, or on TikTok making music for TikTok, you are not going to make a song. You're not going to make a video that has the pacing structures of a conventional film.
Yeah,
because
like
that
a
would be
YouTube
insane.
documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that like that. Okay, well, if we touched upon the structure of music, you know, the fact that sequencing music for an album is dying.
Yeah.
But arguably, the only reason why people started thinking of albums as albums was because at some stage there was a 33-inch record, 33. What am I saying? That there were like vinyl records, right? Long players.
Yeah.
And that was approximately there's approximately like, you know, on
there's only so much
you get like 40 minutes or something like that. And then when double albums came around, it's like 40 plus 40, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reason why all of a sudden everyone was condensing, was making albums, and a lot of that was actually just filling up the dead time to sell more albums.
Yeah.
You know, because okay, you've heard 3 singles, they were very successful. Now buy the album. You bought the singles, buy the album.
Yeah.
And that's it. People were almost structuring and sequencing things to add more value to you know, the music for the consumer.
That makes sense. I mean, it also makes sense, like kind of where we're at now in terms of people make music for TikTok. They make music that is generally shorter now.
Yeah.
I think the general attention span has decreased, so people do not want to listen to 5-6 minute long songs. I don't know if like those songs like back in like the 70s and 80s, and Queen, like for example, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Sure.
Back then that was considered a long song. Like
For the radio,
now
yeah.
that would be almost unheard of. I know, for example, like I've personally essentially reduced like the length of my songs. And whether that's like consciously or subconsciously, I'm not sure. But like my songs don't tend to go over 4 minutes. They tend to stick between like 2:45 to probably about 3 minutes 30, 3 minutes 45. There might be some that are slightly longer, but nothing really, I'm not there doing like 5-6 minute songs with 1 minute guitar solos that have like a beat change in between, and then it goes back to the whatever, right? It's like maybe the mediums of which we're kind of exposed to influence the style of music that we make now.
I mean, they absolutely do. You know, symphonies and orchestras were as much made for and optimized by the listening environment that they were in, as they were by the kind of distribution of said medium. So, like, you could only listen to a symphony if you were a member of the public in a concert hall.
Yeah.
And given that you had paid to be in that concert hall, I'm sure you could sit there for 2 hours and listen to the symphony.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas if you downloaded a free app and there were 50,000 people who were also making music or also making videos, you're not going to sit there for 2 hours if someone made a 2 hour long TikTok video. And that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way the world is
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
is going, you know? But because I'm not trying to make a living out of music, I don't need to abide by that.
Yeah.
You know? But it's almost as commercially unviable as if I decided to, well, write symphonies. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I mean, with sync licensing.
With sync licensing, yeah. There's every cloud, right?
Yeah, every cloud has a silver lining. Oh, but nah, I don't know where it's gonna go. That's the thing. I feel like every generation and every time period has its own sort of weird struggle with the technology of the time impacting the culture.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the job of the artist to try and figure out how to navigate that while still remaining true to like your creative side and not getting lost in the technical bullshit. Because I think you could just become just like a industry observer and just someone who just talks about or tries to participate in the industry, but you're not necessarily being a creative anymore. Because all you're doing is watching for the next TikTok. Like,
Yeah.
what app do I need to start making content on now?
Sure,
Like,
sure.
what formats do I need to make content on now? It's like you're missing the point of. I mean, that might be why you got into it, but I know I got into this because I love music.
Yeah.
And whether or not I'm good at it, I'm trying to achieve this state of being better than I was,
Right.
to the point where hopefully I'll be proud of the work that I create. But if I get lost in the promotional side of things, I should call it, then I'll lose the fact that of why I started doing this in the first place.
Yeah, no, I
Just to be creative.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. The problem is, and this is, I feel like this is a thing that transcends our generation, that transcends us. That every, you know, I was saying that I used to be with it, and then they changed what it is. I think I'm quoting Simpsons, and it'll happen to you.
Jasper Wong 2025.
And now no. It's like I used to be with it, then they changed what it is, and now what the kids think of as it is what is wild and scary, and it'll happen to you. So I'm paraphrasing
Profound.
very, very badly. Abe Simpson, right? Homer's dad. Grandpa Simpson, you know. And the fact is that, like, with every successive generation ends up thinking of music in a different way, or thinking of art in a different way, and what if we are too closed off about it and say, like, oh, you know, I like my films to be 2 hours long and slow as hell, or like, I want my films to be about, or I want my music to be, you know, to have, you know, an intro, a guitar solo. I say, yeah, I want there to be like 4 verses, and I want I want to be taken on a journey by the artist. I want to be taken on a journey, and I want to listen to a song and have my emotional state, changed by the song. I want to really understand an artist's interior. That's what I want. I can't say that someone who is, just downloading TikTok for the first time today, at the age of 11, at the age of 12, and then grows up with the knowing that as music, or understanding music in that way, listening to music in a bite-sized form, like that just becomes their normal. So then in 15 or 20 years time, when they're creating music, or like in 10 years time when they're creating music, or when they like get to 35 or 40, that's their expectation of what music is. So then then there's going to be some 10-year-old, 11-year-old, I don't know what it's going to be by then, under like loving AI generated music, and knowing it's AI generated, or maybe the fun of it then, or maybe then creating music at that time will be directing you will be directing AI on
Prompting,
where to prompt, how to prompt it, and that's what it's going to be. And then they're going to be saying, oh man, do you remember the time when there were when real creators made 10-second, 15-second loops? Do you remember the time when they were actually doing that? They actually filmed. They bought like lights and they edited it on their phones.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, like.
Do you remember that time when you used to have a CapCut subscription and had to ride the fader to get the gain? Like,
yeah. But they're gonna be saying that, right? And then
that's wild.
And then everyone's gonna be saying like, oh no, but like look at the stuff that I can prompt.
There's definitely gonna be some purists. Some old heads are like, no, I'm with my analog gear, and it's just them and a DAW.
Yeah, it's gonna be them with like a soft synth, or like Omnisphere is gonna get reissued. Yeah, and it's gonna be like a retro thing.
It's gonna be a retro thing.
It's like, oh, speaking of which, Serum 2 just came out.
I've heard it's amazing.
Yeah, I got a free download.
How?
I bought Serum 1.
Okay, they do that. Yeah. Okay, free upgrade.
Yeah.
Damn, I wish I had Serum 1.
Yeah,
I've seen some videos on kind of like the functionality of Serum 2, and it looks incredible. I mean, I get why Serum and Omnisphere are kind of like the industry standards when it comes to VSTs, right? And
I mean, there's some wonderful. Diva is still, to me, the best soft synth that sounds like analog.
Yeah.
And in 20 years' time, that's what they're gonna be saying. Like, oh man, fucking Chat GPT 4.5. There's like,
we've only gone 0.5 in 20 years.
Oh, no, I was gonna say that like that there's gonna be like an emulator in the future, where it's gonna be like Chat GPT 50 is going to be, that's going to be the thing that everyone uses. But then some people are going to be like, oh no, I like the more analog output from when you prompt in ChatGPT 4.5, and they'll go all the way back to that, and they'll be like, that'll be a feature.
Yeah, I like the color. Yeah. I like the way it saturates. Yeah.
How is that any different to us using LA2A like compressor plugins?
It's like CLA 76.
Yeah. It's not any different, man. Like every generation, it's gonna be just, there's gonna be people being silly.
There's always the thing is, it's like I don't own any like analog gear necessarily. I own that synthesizer, but I don't own any like analog compressors or anything like that, or like analog reverb or delay. I mean, other than my pedals, like I don't have any like sort of stacks. But surely, even amongst like analog gear, because of like Silicon Lottery, there must be a very big difference in the quality of one.
Oh, there absolutely is.
Like, say, compressor to another.
Absolutely.
So, how do you know what that, like, the software version is meant to sound like?
Well, that's the thing. That's
like, what is it emulating?
Oh man,
how is it emulating?
If you go onto Gearspace,
yeah,
it's like
Bigos,
entire
yeah.
forums like just based on that. Like, oh no, this LA2A, it's this LA2A plugin has a more realistic, saturation at past a particular
Yeah.
frequency, and other people saying that, no, I own an LA2A and it doesn't sound right, and then another person would be saying that, oh no, but hold on a second. Just because they modeled an LA2A doesn't mean they modeled your LA2A. So like, oh god, it's it's endless, man. It's just I've stopped going on those forums because it's a really unproductive waste of time.
It's 100%.
It's quite fun, though.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
You're watching people beef each other on the internet. It's always a great time. But nah, cool. Should we call it there?
Right, yeah, we can do.
That's 2 hours.
Is it?
Yeah, that's telling you. Like the time goes like that.
Wow. So the last thing that last thing on the podcast is me talking about LA2As.
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
As a producer should.
As a producer should, yeah. I feel like I got sidetracked, man.
No, it's fine. Is there anything you wanted to talk about before we kind of call it them?
Not really. Did you have any questions for me?
I had a few, but I already asked them.
Oh, you already asked
Yeah.
me? Oh, nice. All right.
I mean, I know you've got you're working on an album.
Yeah.
There isn't currently a release date, is there?
No, but I'll be putting out a couple of singles at in the upcoming future.
Okay.
Or depending on how long this podcast episode took to edit.
It's already out.
Or it's already out.
Yeah.
And quite possibly I might have won a Mercury Award for thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Round of applause, guys.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're listening to this in 2065, I've just accepted my lifetime award for music services.
Love that. Well, make sure you follow Jasper Wong, Jasper and the Wong on Instagram,
Yeah.
Jasper Wong on Spotify, and I'm assuming Apple Music and all other good streaming platforms. Is there anywhere else they can find you? Oh, the website.
Yeah, the website I've committed to building now.
Nice. So hopefully she'll be out.
Yeah.
At some point.
Hey,
when this podcast is up.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to hearing your new music.
I'm looking forward to releasing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
where
think
will people find it?
people will find it absolutely everywhere. So I'm distributing it to every platform. But it's not out yet. So it probably will be out by the time this podcast comes out. So go check out my socials as well. I mean, you should know me if you're here, but I'm Raj the Cool, and this is Jasper and the Wong on Instagram. But yeah, thank you all for listening. This is the spin-off episode 2. If you have finished and waited this long to get to the end of the podcast, go check out our session on YouTube. That is a 3-hour long session where we've recorded some cool music that is very different to what we usually make / very in keeping to what we usually make as well.
Yeah.
In some aspects. So
in a way.
Yeah, but awesome session, good creative exercise. I think we had a great time.
I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too.
Both the 3-hour session and the podcast. It's always a real pleasure speaking to you one-on-one. And
100%.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. You're always welcome.
Yeah.
All right, see you, dude.
Yeah.
Bang. All right. Cheers, guys.
All right.